Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Mac and Talk number 55 for Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. I am your host, Chanelle Allen. Mac and Talk is an open Q&A conference call for anyone with Mac questions. Whether you are considering the purchase of a Mac or you are getting started, you have one, and you're trying to figure out this voiceover thing on your Mac, or maybe you've had a Mac for a while and you have some questions about an app or feature. For whatever reason, I'm glad that you're joining us live tonight or later on via the podcast recording. Before we actually get on to the best part, which is your questions, well, we want to talk about iBug today. And that's still important too, because it'll connect you with more things that we do. We can be found on our website and social media. Our website is ibugtoday.org. There, the most important thing you can do is register to become a member. Registration is free, and participating in any of all of our trainings and social events is free. There's also a link to view upcoming events for the month. The events for March have not yet been posted. And there is also a Mac and Talk link. Under that Mac and Talk link, you will find my email address. You will also find instructions for subscribing to the Mac and Talk discussion email list. And that's a great place to ask questions in between these calls. If something didn't get fully addressed tonight, or if somebody has additional information, or if you just want to post some other helpful learning resources. Moving out to our social media, we're on Facebook, facebook.com/groups/iBugToday. In addition to having our announcements, the group is also another way for members to connect in between our events and to ask questions. On Twitter, I should say X and Instagram, we are also at iBugToday, and our announcements get posted to those platforms as well. But on Twitter, our Twitter master, Herbie Allen, gives us lots of great Apple news, rumors,
X-Master.
X-Master, okay. Gives us lots of great news, deals, rumors, how-to guides, Mac stuff, and more. So be sure to check that out. And we were speaking of YouTube earlier. iBug Today has a YouTube channel where you can catch all of our workshops and the lessons from a previous Mac training course. If you search for the iBug Today YouTube channel, then you'll find all these things organized into playlists. And if YouTube is not your thing, but you still want to listen to us, we have podcasts. Put into your favorite smart speaker or podcast app of choice: iBug Buzz, iBug Apple Workshop, iBug Apple Cafe, and iBug Mac and Talk, and you will find us. All right, that's a lot there. What do we have coming up this week? The month is drawing down, but we are certainly not. On Thursday, we have It's iBug's Life. All these events are in Central Time and all take place at the same Zoom ID. So you got in tonight, you'll be able to get into everything else if you save the link. It's iBug's Life takes place on Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m., facilitated by George Batiste, who is an adaptive life skills instructor, and the topic is gardening. On Friday, we have iBug Night at the virtual movies. That always begins at 7:15 with pre-movie social, consisting of lots of jokes, music, trivia, and just fun, followed by the movie at 8, which this week is Maestro. And then there is a discussion after the movie. On Saturday, we have iBug Unplugged, and that takes place from 8 to 10 p.m. I think the topic is Cat Got Your Pun? I think I remember that the other day. Somebody will enlighten us if we're missing the details there. And that's from 8 to 10. Every Monday night, we have iBug Buzz. That's from 7 to 9. And that's for all of your iOS, iDevice, Apple accessory questions. Here we talk the Mac and only the Mac. There we talk everything else iOS. And so we highly encourage you to come to that call. Next Tuesday, we'll have iBug Mac Buzz, which is a shortened version of this call taking place from 5 to 6 p.m. And you can definitely come address your questions there. And now we get to the part where everyone goes around the room, say where who you are, where you're calling from, and if you're joining us for the first time. And I am Chanelle, and I live in Houston.
I am Charlene and I live in Utah.
Welcome, Charlene.
Thank you.
I'm David, and I live in Massachusetts. First time.
Welcome, David. Awesome.
Judy in Connecticut.
Welcome, Judy.
I'm Chris in Las
Herbie in
Vegas.
Houston.
Okay, welcome, Herbie, and welcome, Chris. And is this your first time joining us, Chris?
No, it's the first time in a long time, but I have
Okay.
been on your calls before.
Okay, well, welcome back. We're glad to have you.
Dan
I'm
from Southern
Davida
California.
from Northern Virginia.
I'm sorry, Davida.
Northern Virginia.
Okay, welcome. Glad to have you. And Dan. Nice to have you too.
Hi, I'm Eli Tucker from California.
Welcome, Eli. And you're a
Yes.
student in my
And
class. Welcome.
Yep.
Anicio from Florida, also a student in your
Yeah,
class.
welcome, Anicio.
Thank
Great.
you.
Glad to have you both here.
Pete, also
Thank you.
from Florida.
Welcome, Pete.
Sure.
This is Brad,
Jasmine Palmer.
not from Florida.
Welcome, Brad. We're still happy to have you, even though you're not from Florida. Okay, and who else was speaking?
Jasmine Palmer from Michigan.
Jasmine, and you're also a student in the class. Welcome.
Yes.
And this is Chuck from Columbus, Ohio.
Welcome, Chuck. Glad to have you too.
This is Jody from Florida. What class are you guys talking about?
This is the Mac training class that I teach through iBug today. The enrollment is already closed, but you're more than welcome to email me to get on the waiting list for a future class session or check out our videos on YouTube.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Otherwise, are you joining us? We're happy to have you. Is this your first time joining us?
It is. I'm just checking in for a short time, but yeah, I wanted to see what this is about. Thank you.
Great. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Mary Ellen Earl, Scottsdale, Arizona.
Welcome, Mary Ellen.
Nevada?
I'm sorry? Can you
I
speak?
said this is Harry from Nevada.
Harry, I think I caught. Okay, you're a little quiet, but welcome. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
And are you joining us for the first time? Okay. All right, so I think we've gone through everyone who would like to ask the first question, and we try to save the first question, for any of you newcomers, which is most of you. So the floor is yours.
This is Chuck in Columbus. I have a very simple question.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know, I actually figured out how to get into the voiceover tutorial.
Yay.
And I am on one of the elements where you enter voiceover practice, and it says press OK. And I have no idea what they're talking about.
Okay, so who can help Chuck with the voiceover tutorial?
Is this on the Mac you're talking about?
Yes.
Because I just did that a while ago, and it kind of each screen will focus on a specific control or navigation manner, and then you just press the right arrow to go to the next.
Yeah, I've got that.
Screen.
I've got that part of it, but on one of them, when it said to enter voiceover practice, it said something about hitting OK, and I'm like, I'm just starting. I have no idea what these keys are. I'm learning them just by hitting this.
Oh, is it VOK? Is that what it's saying?
Yes, probably is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, and so who can tell Chuck what
press?
VOK is?
So I've used this today too.
And so remember, just as that you may not have heard, but the way we do things around here is we say our name and then wait to be acknowledged. And that way it just keeps our recording clean and we all get to know each other's voices. So, Inicio, go ahead.
Thank you. So I just used that today. It's a great feature where by doing VOK, it every time you press a key on the Mac, it will tell you what that key does, and including combinations of keys. So if you do VO L, for example, or VO, it will tell you, or VO right arrow, it will tell you what that function is.
And who knows what it means when it says VO? What are those keys?
This is Pete.
Yeah, Pete?
The VO keys, Chuck, if you are just starting, those are your modifier keys, which are the control key, and the option key, and it's also stands for voiceover keys, but they are the control and the option key down on your bottom row on your keyboard, followed by, in this case, the letter K, which will enable the voiceover help or the voiceover practice area, which is, as Ignacio mentioned, will allow you to press keys and combinations of keys on your keyboard, and then the voiceover speech will tell you what each key will do for you.
This is
Brad.
Chuck.
Okay, Brad and then Chuck.
Well, it's going to add to what Pete said. Your voiceover modifier can also be set to be the caps lock. And on a new Mac, if you haven't changed it, it allows you to use either Control Option or the caps lock key for your VO modifier. And if your VO modifier, like I said, by default, can also be the caps lock. If you want to use the caps lock as a caps lock key, you have to tap it twice. And this may be familiar to you because there are a number of other screen readers and accessibility programs that do use the caps lock as a modifier. So it's the same behavior you may have seen other places.
Very good.
Okay,
And Chuck?
Yeah,
Go
this
ahead.
is Chuck. So that means this is brand new out of the box this morning. That means I can use the caps lock key. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And what I
Thank you.
would recommend is, the tutorial will actually tell you what keys you can use for VO, the modifier. So go ahead and press left arrow to go back to the beginning of the tutorial and listen carefully. One thing I found with that tutorial is if I'm feeling too impatient or ornery, it just doesn't work. Sometimes as you'll get further on in the tutorial, you'll press the thing to initiate practice and it seems like you didn't even press anything. It takes forever. It's working, but it loads a little bit slowly. So have a lot of patience when you go through that thing and that'll make your life easier. What?
It talks slow too.
Yes,
Which drives
it does.
me crazy.
I know, yes. But great. Excellent question. Thanks, Chuck. And who would like to ask our next question?
This is Charlene.
Yes, Charlene.
I have a question about first line navigation. So
Okay.
I haven't had problems using it. I can go to my dock, use first line navigation. I can navigate to Safari or Mail, wherever I want to go. But once I get into Safari, if I do Command L to go to the search bar and I start typing in there, for example, I was trying to, there's a website that starts with Braille. So I put B, and every time I did that, hit a B, it would advance to another section. So I tried something else, and with L, it said link not found. Other letters, it just says beep, beep. And I thought, okay, do I have my VO semicolon on for doing a lock? So I did VO semicolon to see if I had it locked, and I don't. And I'm not sure what else that I might be doing. I can't do it in Finder either.
This is
Yes,
Brad.
Brad, go ahead.
Which version of the OS are you running?
Oh, such a good question. 13?
Is it a brand new Mac?
Well,
She was in my class, so you're running the latest one, correct?
Are you running Sonoma or are you running Ventura?
Should be the latest Sonoma because I did the update.
Okay. Well, do you remember in the class I talked, Chanelle and Herbie probably talked about QuickNav?
Yes.
Well, what used to be a subset of QuickNav was Quick Key navigation. And prior to Sonoma, when you would turn on QuickNav, you may or may not, if it's enabled, turn on Quick Key navigation. However, Apple, in its infinite wisdom, which is a joke to where their offices used to be infinite loop, they separated out Quick Key navigation from QuickNav. So even though you may have QuickNav turned off, Quick Key navigation may still be on. You can toggle Quick Key navigation on or off with VOQ. And one of the differences now, prior to Sonoma, even if you had Quick Key navigation turned on and you had QuickNav turned on, so Quick Key navigation is active, if you had gone to an edit field like the address bar in Safari, you could still type normally. But because the edit field seemed to override Quick Key navigation, it only worked when there was such things like HTML format to where your Quick Key navigations would help you navigate, web elements and things of that nature. But if you went to an edit field, you could type. Well, you can't do that anymore. And it drives me crazy because now I have to pay more attention to whether it's on or off. So do a VOQ and see if it says Quick Key navigation on or Quick Key navigation off. And I think that may be what's going on for you.
Thank you so much. Yes, I will try that. I'll get back in and let you know if that worked.
That's easy to do. I'm sure others have I've even had that problem. So, yep, very good. Thanks,
So
Charlene.
helpful. Yeah, thank you. I sure didn't know what was going on. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Great. Who would like to ask our next question?
Davita,
Yes, Davita.
what is Sonoma?
Okay. Who would like to answer that question?
This is Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
Sonoma is a place in California. They have an important NASCAR race there every year. And Apple.
Anyway,
they won't go with my idea naming one of their OSs the Big Apple. Instead,
what's
they
an
name it after
OS? Back up.
Operating system.
So Sonoma, therefore, is
the latest operating system.
Yes.
And why does it have a name for Macs and not with iPhones?
Okay, so let's go ahead and let Brad answer. Go ahead, Brad.
All Apple operating systems, be they on iOS, iPad OS, the watch, the Mac, all have version numbers. For some reason, Apple gives Mac operating systems a cute name as well. For a long time, they used cat names, Panther, Lion, Mountain Lion, so on and so forth. Then at some point, they switched from cat names to locations in California names. Why did they do this for the Mac and not for the other platforms? Well, who knows? Only Apple can answer that question. It's just something they do. So when you ask what is Sonoma, well, it is also Mac OS 14 point, and right now we're up to 14.3.1. So when people say Sonoma, they generally mean the Mac OS 14 point whatever version of the operating system.
Okay, thank you.
This is Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
So, it's just as well that we did not get iPhone names because we could be stuck with names like Ice Cream Sandwich, Kit Kat, M&M, and all that. So, they probably to make sure they were differentiating themselves a little bit from Android. So, because people already probably think they can eat their phones with them being Apples already. Don't try to confuse them even more. So,
This is Anicio.
Yes, Anicio.
So the Mac that I'm using, that I start using today, really, and will be using in class, has I forget what you call it, the function keys on top. They're not. It's a flat. What do you call that?
The touch bar.
Touch bar. So
okay,
which So, which I didn't know how to use. So what I did is I connected my Mantis Q40 Braille display to it and used that keyboard. But is that another way of using of accessing the touch bar?
This is Brad.
Yes, Brad.
I had a touch bar Mac, and you absolutely will never need to touch the touch bar. There are many voiceover functions that use the F keys, but Apple, I give them a hard time for some things, but actually they're pretty smart. When they came out with the touch bar back in Yosemite, I believe it was, they made it so that for voiceover commands that use F keys, they will make a key combination that allows you to use the number row. For example, you said you have a laptop, correct? What is it, a MacBook
Yes. Yeah,
Air or Pro or something? Okay.
the Pro.
If you hold down the VO modifier, whatever you may be using for the VO modifier, I use Control Option because I started using the Mac before they made Caps Lock and an alternative to the VO modifier. So you hold VO and the FN key. So in my case, that's those three keys right there next to each other on the far right hand end of the bottom row, to the right of the left of the space bar. And if I then press the number 1 on the number row, it would be the same thing as if I pressed VOF1, which tells me my current application. If I press it a second time, it brings up the application switcher. And so on and so forth through the other number row keys, F1 all the way across to to number 0 beyond the 9. And that will allow you to do things that are used with F1 through F10 in the number row. And you can,
Is that
again,
true? No, go ahead.
turn on the
Sorry.
keyboard help, and you can press it, which we already talked about with VOK. And if you then hold down your VO modifier and your F1 and press your number row keys, it will tell you what they do. Does your model of Touch Bar Mac have a physical escape key?
No, it's part of it. It's part of
Okay.
the.
Well, what you can do, again, Apple covered that one as well. And I learned this a long time ago when I took Chanelle's class the first time she taught it. If you hold down FN, the tab key will become a physical escape key. Okay? And that's something else that they did for the Touch Bar Mac. And there are some other things that you can get when you hold down the FN key. For example, the arrow keys become home and page up, page down. The delete key will become a forward delete instead of a backspace delete. And there may be some others, but those are the main ones.
So, Brad, is that true also with to turn voiceover on and off? You can do Command, Function key, and then the number 5?
No, you're going to have to hold down your Command key and press. You have a little Touch ID sensor power button on the far right of the touch bar. So what you're going to want to do is hold the caps lock down, the Command key down, and press your Touch ID sensor 3 times real quick, and that will turn it on.
Oh, I didn't even know I had a Touch ID. That's interesting.
Yeah, put your finger on that touch bar and slide it all the way to the far.
I see. There's
and it may not be a round one. I believe if you have an older one
like a
that
square.
does not have the physical escape key, then you're just going to have a button there that you can press, and that can work as a power button, but it also has the Touch ID sensor in that button.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've been using to turn it on. Okay, thank you.
Very good.
This is Charlene.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlene.
Thank you very much. That worked. I think what might have happened is I was trying to close a window. Instead of doing Command Q, I must have done Control Option Q and done that. So thank you very much. That solved the problem.
Learned.
Very good.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
You only learn by nobody made a mistake. Nobody learned anything. Guy discovered penicillin because he left dirty dishes out. you know,
Yeah,
in the lab.
right.
Yeah.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
So I do
Yeah,
have
so
potential.
just as a quick note, I would sometimes slide my hands across that touch bar when I still had one, but I loved and I've always used an external keyboard. And so if you like your Mantis and it works well, that is also a great option. But Brad just detailed wonderfully what you can do when you don't have access to that external keyboard. So very
Yeah,
good.
that's
Who would,
great. That's great.
what?
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you.
Who would like to ask the next question?
Mary Ellen,
Yes, Mary Ellen.
I have a question on the Mac calendar. I had to switch everything over to make a very, very long story short in January from a different device to this Mac calendar. And what I'm finding is that when I set up these calls, instead of the calls coming in, say, today, Mac and Talk, the fourth Thursday or Tuesday of the month, it'll come up on the date that the call was last done. For example, it would have come up on, say, the 24th of January or something like that, if that's what the last date was. And is there a way to tell the calendar this is the fourth Thursday of the month, and go through all these calls to designate the date or the number of the week? You know what I'm saying?
So, how to fix the occurrences so they occur on the right day and time?
Right, right.
This is Davita.
Yes, Davita.
I might be able to answer that question. I think under repeat, well, actually, I don't know if it's the same on the phone as it would be on a Mac, so it might not work. But there is a way to get down to a custom. You click custom, and then you can navigate. I don't know if there's a middle step where it's like the first Wednesday, the second Wednesday, the third, where you can get that set up. And I can't imagine that it would be that different from a phone to a Mac, but I don't know. But that would be the concept to look for, where you can customize it and pick that cycle.
Okay.
This is Brad.
Yes,
Okay.
Brad.
I cheat because I find the calendar on the Mac more difficult to use than on the iPhone. And since I'm signed in to the same Apple ID on both devices, what I do on one device shows up on the other. So I always set up new calendar entries on the iPhone because I find the calendar layout on the iPhone to be much simpler. And yes, she's correct. You want to go to custom, and then you're given a number of choices how you want to do it. Under monthly, one of them is it'll do the same date like last time. Was it 24th, I think? No, 23rd. Anyway, but you can go through there and it'll be and you can set it for the, fourth, third, first, and then you can pick day of, what day. So in this case, it'd be the fourth Tuesday. But yeah, I cheat. I probably should just bite the bullet and learn to do it on the Mac. But in the meantime, I just want to get it done. I do it on the iPhone and then they show up on the Mac.
Actually, this is Mary Ellen. Actually, I found just the opposite, that I couldn't get over how easy it was on the Mac.
Well,
so then what's
whatever works.
Yeah. But they're still not showing up for you correctly? Is that
Well, okay, for example, let me see. The Apple Workshop, which was Saturday, showed up on my calendar this morning like today's the Apple Workshop, because it was, on January 27th.
Yeah, this is Brad. You want to look at that custom. That's where you will do that. You may have done it before and told it monthly. And by default, it's going to do it on that same date whenever you told it it's a repeating or recurring, whatever it calls it.
Okay. Well,
But
thank
look
you
under
very much.
custom.
Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
So when you're in the event and you're creating it, and yes, the Mac calendar is actually pretty easy. I definitely encourage you to give it a try if you are an experienced Mac user. So you just go to where it says, the first thing to do is make sure you set it for the correct event and the quick event. That'll really make your life a lot easier. But then once you set up the date and you get that set, you just go to where it says repeats. And then, so in the repeat option, you got a date area that you can interact with.
Yeah.
And then you got every week, and then you can set then there's you can down arrow on that combo box to change it to whatever you want. And then if you want it like custom, then you can tell it like, every other Tuesday or whatever. So that's so like if you want it, so like I set it for I create an event for Monday night for the iBug Buzz, and I tell it to repeat every week. So it's always going to always
right,
repeat
but
every
she's
Monday.
trying to get something that's every fourth Saturday.
So that's where you go to custom.
Every fourth Tuesday.
And that's where you go to custom in that combo box.
Well, this is Mary Ellen. I have a cleaning service that comes every week. I set that up. That's fine. But it's just that, it really threw me for a loop this morning when Apple Workshop is today. And I'm going, no, it isn't. It's already been.
Yeah, just check that interval and go into custom if needed. That'll be your solution. So, all right.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Who would like to ask our next question?
This is Eli.
Yes, Eli.
Yeah, I was wondering what methods are used to take a call using the FaceTime app on Mac, and if you have a preference over the other. There doesn't seem to be a dedicated voiceover key. So as a voiceover user, what are the best ways to answer a call?
All right. Who is our FaceTime expert?
Herbie.
I know. I hear him rushing to the computer.
Sorry.
So this is Herbie.
Go ahead.
You just simply interact with the notification that pops up, and you'll see options to answer or decline.
This is Brad.
And all that.
Yes, Brad.
Can't you use the item chooser VO command spacebar rather than interact with the notification? If the notification already has
never
focus.
Tried it. I suppose it would work.
I wonder if that might be a little quicker.
I find it easier just to interact and then VO right or VO left until.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, one thing I will say when it comes to initiating FaceTime calls, I find Siri to be the best option.
Okay. Excellent.
But yeah, you just interact and then you've got all your options right there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. You have an exceptional microphone, by the way.
Thank you.
So that's very interesting to me, and I'm curious if because I know they have a wonderful accessibility team, but just having dedicated keys. So I've heard people using the play button to answer calls and that kind of a thing, but there's nothing specifically for VoiceOver.
It might work if you're like using AirPods. That could specifically work, but I don't know even in general, like for sighted people, how they would do, like if they have a dedicated button or not. I've never heard of. I mean, that could be possible, but
yeah. Yes, Brad.
I haven't looked, but I bet it's possible to set up a keyboard commander because there are a multitude of options when setting up a keyboard commander. I'd have to look at it myself and see.
Well, yeah, I've set one up for the 2-finger double tap or the magic tap, but I don't know if that would answer a call.
Well, if you've gone in there and seen that, where is it, custom commands, there's like all those submenus, and there are literally some of those categories. One of them had like 80 choices, I think. So
yeah, but I've never seen anything for answering a call.
Okay, well, I just thought of it. It might be in there,
but it
might not.
Yeah, something to look at.
This is Pete.
Yes, Pete?
What microphone are you using, Herbie?
You know what he's using.
You're just trying to make him rush back to the
No,
computer. That's okay. He shouldn't
I
leave
don't know what
anyway.
he's using.
He
That's a
wants
good.
to. He's using a Yeti.
Oh, the Blue Yeti.
Yeah, I think
Hmm.
yours is better. We all know it.
Oh, I didn't mean that. His does sound
Just
good.
giving you a hard
It's like a
time.
really cool stereo
Well,
there.
I could, I'm having to take notes on this call, and I could put that as a question. What microphone is Herbie using? No.
That's a
Well,
test
it's
question.
very
Yeah.
unique. It's different, as Eli pointed out. It's really
Right.
noticeable. Yeah.
This is
So yeah, it
Sandra.
doesn't have to be
Oh,
immediate, but that's a curiosity
Okay,
question.
go ahead, Sandhya.
okay. Question still on navigating on the Mac with sometimes I have to turn on Command Q and sometimes not, and I don't know what makes the. I've never had this problem. It's only, I guess, since the new. Well, I didn't update till recently, but anyway, I'm just having weird issues with uh navigating, single key navigation.
All right. Who can help
This is Herbie.
Sandhya? Yes, Herbie.
This is my opinion. I personally recommend, honestly, that your best bet when it comes to navigating the mech is not to rely on the quick keys at all, but just use your VO left and right and VO commands. And then the numpad commander if you have a full size keyboard. Otherwise, it's just you have to remember to turn on your quick keys. Like you're mainly going to use them in Safari more than anything else. Where you're especially going to use your VO commands. But I don't know. I never found quick nav to really be all that
Not quick
helpful.
nav,
Yeah,
quick
you get to
key.
use the left hand, but I recommend not
This
relying on
is
the quick keys. But yeah,
this is Brad.
Go ahead, Brad.
Well, I disagree with Herbie. I mean, well, what he's talking about, quick key doesn't. It does different things. VO right, VO left. That's not what quick key does. He's
No.
talking quick nav. Quick key enables single key navigation, um, which allows you to navigate by headings, links, and various other web elements when in an HTML um, um, type situation like a web, when you're in Safari or Google Chrome or you're in email that may have web elements. I mean, yes, you can also use VO command, hold those keys down, and a lot of the quick keys are the same, as Chanelle pointed out to me one time. Actually, there are some options you get with quick key navigation turned on that you don't get when using VO command and some letters. I can't tell you what they are off the top of my head, but I find it easy to use in certain circumstances. But I mean, quick key, like I said before, prior to Sonoma, it was a subset of quick nav. You had to turn quick nav on to use quick key navigation. And then with quick nav turned on, you could either turn quick key on or off using the same VOQ, but now they've separated out. And they've also changed how it works when you're, in edit fields, as I already mentioned. But it's different. I mean, I understand what he's saying about VO right and left as opposed to quick nav. When I first got a Mac a long time ago, oh yeah, quick nav, that was cool. I played with it all the time, but I got over it and I decided it was almost more efficient to not use it because I was always having to turn it on and off. So I don't hardly ever turn quick nav on, but I do find it useful that now I can use quick key navigation without having to toggle quick nav on. Again, it's up to the individual. If whatever works for you, if you find that quick key is helpful, then use it. If you find it's not and it's more in your way, then don't use it. There's other ways to do it, but don't confuse quick key navigation with quick nav, which has to do with using your arrow keys as your one-handed navigation.
Yes. And this is an alternative to even quick nav, and I'm talking about the regular quick nav is the numpad commander because that
Mhm.
works beautifully for me at least. there's also the trackpad commander, but there's VoiceOver gives us several alternatives. So yeah, hopefully I even still get confused, Sandhya and everybody. Sometimes I'll turn on the single key quick when I turn on quick nav with the left and right arrows when I mean to turn on single key. So I still get confused. It's a change with macOS Sonoma, but we're all learning and working through it together. So hopefully that helped a little bit.
I think
Thank you.
Numpad is the greatest numpad commander.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
This is Brad. Numpad Commander is great, but of course not. We don't always have a full size keyboard.
No.
When I travel, I'm using, well, even at home, I have my MacBook Pro that I'm on right now, and I do not have I have a full size keyboard that I can use with it, but generally I don't, and so I don't have a numpad on it, so I can't use Numpad Commander. But you can the same things you can set up on Numpad Commander, you can also generally set up in Keyboard Commander. I don't use it as much. I know some people have dexterity or arthritis issues with one hand or the other, and therefore a numpad commander can be very helpful in those situations. But also, I for a long time I never used keyboard commander until I had to teach it one time, and in the course of teaching it, I started setting things up, and it ended up being a part of my daily workflow. And there's even a way under VO utility where you can export your voiceover settings, and one of the things you can export all by itself is just your keyboard commander settings or your numpad commander settings, and then you can import them on another Mac. And so you can keep the exact same thing on the two Macs. So it's very, very handy. And you can do that with Numpad. I think Numpad Commander as well. And so you can have it ready so that if you I have a extended Magic keyboard that I'll take with me sometimes when I travel, and I'll use it on my laptop, but my MacBook Pro. But
This is
it's
Davida.
here when you need it.
Yes, Davida, go ahead.
So pretty consistently, I am hearing people talking about external keyboards, despite the fact that a laptop comes with one. Why is that? Why do people use an external keyboard?
All right, who
Well,
would like to answer
this
that?
is Brad. Like I said, sometimes when
Brad.
I'm traveling, I like to use the full size extended keyboard. Another
So-
thing is I tend to hit the trackpad with the heel of my hand sometimes. And if I'm using an external keyboard, be it the full size or even a small one, which I tend to not use with my Mac, I'm not going to bump it. But
So
that's
if
the
you
reason
get
I'll
an
do it.
external keyboard, then the trackpad you use is the one that came with the laptop?
Yeah, I just set the external keyboard right in front of the laptop. I slide the laptop a little bit farther back on the table, and I mean, I'm using VoiceOver, even though I do see a little bit. I don't see well enough to be seeing anything on the screen anyway.
So when
So
you
I'm
say
just using VoiceOver.
extended, that means that there's a numpad on the
Numpad,
keyboard?
yes, and six pack
Is
and
that,
arrow, yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why everybody goes to the external?
Sometimes
And
it's personal choice. I know people that hate the numpad keyboards. They prefer the external, even if they're using a desktop, they will buy the Magic Bluetooth keyboard that does not have the numpad on it because they don't like it. But,
And just a gentle reminder to everybody that we want to try to let every person finish their thought before interrupting. It just makes the recording a lot cleaner and makes things easier to understand. So, yeah.
It's Mary Ellen. Oh,
yes,
sorry.
Mary Ellen. No, go ahead. No,
Broke your rule. Another reason that people get external keyboards is going back to the touch bar between 2016 and whenever.
2019.
2019. If you don't want that touch bar, there's a setting that you can go in to have the function keys act as function keys, and then you can, use regular keys to get whatever you want to get done.
This is
Very good.
Anicio.
Yes. Yes, Anicio.
Chanel, you mentioned a while back um, when you were Brad was talking about shortcuts, or that you did something to replicate your magic tap. When would you use the equivalent of a magic tap on the Mac? Is it on the trackpad?
Okay, so the magic tap, yeah, you can do that. It's like the two finger double tap on an iPhone. And I honestly use the I use it in a game I play called Letterful, which is ported over from iOS, where if you do a two finger double tap, it submits the word. So that's my reason. Uh, has anybody else ever found a reason to use the magic tap, either gesture, the two finger double tap, or to create a keyboard command for the magic tap gesture on the Mac? Well,
This is
okay.
Brad.
Go ahead, Brad.
If you turn on I have not done like what you've done, but if you turn on Trackpad Commander, it will perform the same function it performs on your iOS device on the trackpad, such as play pause primarily.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There you go.
That's very handy.
This is Eli.
Yes, Eli.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. Like the trackpad, I've found that turning on the trackpad commander and just utilizing the gestures you're used to on iPhone is a great way to like get yourself into using the Mac a little bit more. And I even find myself using it to toggle the screen curtain. Not that it saves me much battery, but hey, and that kind of a thing. But I also had a question regarding, I think they're called aliases on Mac. So desktop
Yes.
shortcuts.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a fun one that I like to utilize for students on PC when it comes to Zoom conference calls. And essentially, I create a shortcut on a Windows PC that is the URL for the Zoom room, and then the student can just activate that shortcut. Is there an easy way to configure that on the Mac?
This is Brad.
Yes, Brad.
I do that extensively. If you can do this through Safari. I suppose you could do it with Google Chrome, but I don't use Google Chrome on my Mac very much. If you go in, if you put the URL into Safari, and which is what happens when you execute a URL. So you can just execute it, and you usually get a command. I mean, a window pops up that asks you if this website wants to open in the Zoom app, allow or cancel. Now there's a thing now that allows you to tell it to do that every time, and you kind of make it so this is harder to do if you've already done that. But when it pops up and it says allow or cancel, if you select cancel, and then you're in your Safari, if you then do a Command S, which will default to a save as screen, and it will want to save that as a web alias. And I usually tell it to put it on my desktop. You do have an opportunity to rename it, or else I can't remember what the exact default is, web alias or whatever it calls it. And you can always rename it later, but I'll give it a name like iBug Zoom Room. And I developed a number of these on my desktop, and then I ended up putting them all in a folder. And I actually put in iCloud, and then I made another alias that I then put on the desktop of my Mac that I can then just open that folder. That's full. I probably got 25, 30 of these things for rooms that I joined from time to time. So you can do that and get a lot of them.
That's excellent. Thank you, Brad.
Now, if I can ask a follow-up, I don't think those aliases are compatible. Let's say if I use Dropbox, and I think one time I tried using those web aliases in Dropbox, and you can't actually open them on a computer of like a Windows computer. I don't think they're compatible.
Oh no,
So,
no. There's Safari web aliases.
yeah, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
they only work with Safari.
I have a tiny
Although,
Zoom follow-up. Oh, I'm
well,
sorry.
I was going to say before we move, I have a number of them for Windows, and they're all created. They're browser specific as well. I have ones for all the accessible world Zoom rooms. I didn't create them; actually, somebody else created them, and they're in a folder, and they work for the ones for Google Chrome only work with Google Chrome. Ones for Edge only work with Edge, and there's even 64 and 32-bit versions, and I really think that has to do with that the program is in a different place on the computer.
See
But
the
no, they're
ones.
even specific on. They can be specific. I think the ones for IE, old IE ones, will probably open Edge now, but I'm not sure.
The ones I created are actually not specific because it was an actual desktop shortcut where you paste in the link, and you can't do anything like that with the Mac aliases. But
No,
hey, if
no,
you're just
no.
going to
Correct.
It's
use if you're
different.
just going to use the Mac, then that'll be great. So, just
They
wanted to
do
mention that since you mentioned that other system, so that they weren't compatible.
They do work excellent. But and this is the shortcut. You just open a context menu in the folder that you would like. Technically, desktop is a folder, just like on Mac, and you can create a shortcut and pop in the URL and name it. But the Zoom follow-up that I had was there is a command. I'm sure I could find it here, but when you're browsing on the Windows PC, I use multiple virtual desktops and I have 100,000 things going at once. But if I press Control, Shift, Alt, and let go, it brings my Zoom meeting into focus, no matter where I am.
Oh
Is
yeah,
there a Mac equivalent?
I'm sure there is.
You
I would have to.
Control Shift Alt. You mean on Windows?
Yeah, and
Yes.
he's so that no matter what app you're in, it brings the focus. You know what? And the best place to look on in Zoom might actually be like the menu bar under meeting or view, because in the menu bar you will find keyboard shortcuts for many common items. So I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but I can get back to you.
No problem. Thank you so much.
This is Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
Zoom does also have on the website a complete list of all their shortcuts.
There you go.
What
But
do you
the
say?
menu bar is your friend. The menu bar is your absolute friend because it shows you a lot of keyboard shortcuts.
And this is Herbie.
Brad, did
Okay,
Herbie say
Herbie,
there
and
was a
then
keyboard command for this?
No, I said that Zoom lists all their keyboard shortcuts on their website.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you can look them up, and it categorizes them together. Like it'll say what's for Windows, Mac, and so you can look there to see. That will completely list everything. Also, I was gonna mention what I do with Zoom short links myself is I actually like to add them to my Google Calendar, and for a number of reasons. That way, they show up on both my phone and my Mac. And like in the phone, I have the app linked to my calendar, so that way that'll show up in the Zoom app itself. And then in the calendar, I can just open the Mac app, click on the event I want, and via Command J to the join button, and voila. So that would be a little bit more of a universal way to create some shortcuts to events that would work on multiple systems. So I just wanted to throw that out there as something as a universal way.
there you go. All right. Who would like to
Oh, and
ask?
this is Herbie. Sorry.
Yes, Herbie. Okay.
Two other things. One of the key commands that does not work without the quick keys would be buttons. Like B for button. But I was going to mention that what I use is honestly as an alternative to a lot of those is the web rotor that brings up the categories, and I can just focus on the category I want. And that is an underutilized tool that I find is really useful myself. So
Very good.
This is Chuck. I have a question, if I might.
Sure.
When I get get all set to set this bad boy up, on my phone, I have all my apps and folders and everything, and it took me about a six pack to do it. But I have all my apps and folders and everything, and it's so neat. Is there a way that I can transfer that configuration to my Mac?
This is Brad.
Go ahead, Brad.
I don't think so because they're different operating systems.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why didn't I think of that? All right. Sorry.
So you want to transfer the files and folders themselves or how they're laid out or what?
I just wanted to transfer everything. And maybe it's not possible now that the more I think about it. I just want to transfer stuff to my Mac so it resembles how my iPhone looks.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I
this
think
is
I'm going
Herbie.
to have to rebuild folders and everything.
Yeah.
This is
All
Brad.
right.
Are you meaning your applications that are in your icons and things on the screen that are in folders?
Yeah. Yes.
No, you can't do it. They're completely different operating
Oh,
systems.
okay. Now that I think about it, that was a silly question. I'm sorry.
This is
Wow.
Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
Okay, so first of all, there's one major thing where you were wrong there, Chuck, and that is that it was a silly question, and the answer is
No.
no.
Okay.
It is
Okay.
not. There is no such thing as a dumb question. There is no such thing as a silly question. And you did not know because you're a new Mac user, so do not feel.
Okay.
So it's a
Thank
very
you.
good question.
I love
So the
this
way
group.
the Mac does things is, of course, we have a dedicated apps folder for all the applications, but you know, you do have a dock that you can use, so you can choose to put things on the dock that you want to have easy access to. You can use Siri to open apps, and the other beautiful thing that we can do on the Mac that we cannot do on the phone is first letter or phrase navigation. So, for instance, I have two A's, like say in my dock, Amadeus Pro or App Store. So if I wanted to focus on the App Store, I can just type in AP and it'll bring up App Store. Or if I typed in AM, it would focus on Amadeus.
Nice.
So that's how you work around. That's how I at least quickly find stuff on my Mac.
This is Brad.
Yes,
As I
Brad.
mentioned, I've been incorporating keyboard commander into my daily workflow, and I have created many keyboard commanders that open apps I use all the time, such as Option key Z will open Zoom, Option key M
Yep.
Mail. Of course, that was one of the ones that were in there to begin with. Option key S for Safari. So, that's another thing you can do. Things that you use all the time like that. And the Launchpad is also really nice as well.
This is Deanna. I've got a question.
Hi, Deanna. Go ahead.
I'm new with the Mac. And this is a new machine, period. When I set it up, isn't it supposed to link with my phone and have the same similar apps as the phone does, or not?
This is Herbie.
Yes, Herbie.
So the answer is no.
Okay.
Because, like Brad explained, they are different operating systems. That being said, with having an M1 Mac, you are going to find that there is an apps made for iPad category, and that will list available apps that will be compatible, no, might be compatible with your Mac, and the keyword is might.
Okay.
And you are going to have a different experience with some of them. Like, probably the most consistent one I found is Dice World. Utunes is an interesting application to run on the Mac. But it works, but it's a little bit different than what you would expect on the phone. The other thing, though, that you will sometimes can have that are universal, even with the older Macs, is there are some subscriptions that will sometimes transfer over, like if you like to the Mac version of the app, sometimes not.
Okay.
Drafts.
Drafts, yep, that would be one that is a universal. So you might have some subscriptions that will carry over, and some will not. VoiceStream is a classic example of an app subscription that will not transfer. Though I think there is a made for iPad version that you can run. But yeah, one of the when I would truthfully tell you guys when I first got the Mac too, I was thinking, ooh, apps like the iPhone, and then I learned early on, okay, it's not quite like the iPhone where everything needs an application, and but
This is Brad.
yep.
Go ahead, Brad.
Well, one of the main things, though, when you talk about signing into your Apple ID on both devices,
Yeah.
certain things, of course, like your contacts, your calendar, messages, notes app, some of these things are
Mail.
synced through iCloud. So when you create a note in your Notes app in the iCloud folder, it will be because you could have other services that use the Notes app as well, but by
Because I'm
default, it's
not
iCloud.
seeing.
So if you do a note in
Mhm.
iCloud on your phone or your Mac, it will show up in the other device. Same thing, you can get your messages can show up on both devices. You're obviously
Mail.
you could set up email, but that's
Okay.
different because that's through
So
setting up a mail account.
so
But there's
where
a
do I
number of these
go
things that
Yeah.
sync
to
through iCloud.
where do I
Yeah, go
go
ahead.
to see if any of these have come because there's nothing on the desktop itself. It's
Right.
totally clean.
This
So
is Brad.
This is Jasmine.
Okay,
Oh.
Jasmine, go
Morning,
ahead.
Jasmine.
hi,
Okay.
Jasmine.
So there won't. Hi, Deanna. We know each other, but anyway.
Awesome. Okay.
So there's not going to be anything on your desktop. All your stuff is going to be like in your dock, or you can like find stuff on your launch pad, but nothing, you're not going to have anything on your desktop unless you put it there. So you won't find anything there. So like, but you can check your notes and see if your notes are there. Like anything you go into iMessages, all your messages should be there as well as contacts. Mail, you'll probably have to sign in, but then once you do, everything will be synced and everything. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's mainly
Okay.
just, like they said, your contacts, calendar, notes, files, things like that.
So
Not actual applications, really.
it's VOM and then I find it up there. Is that where I find it?
You mean like the
What?
doc? It's VOD for the doc.
VOD for doc. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't even know all of these yet.
It's
So
okay.
It's
And
okay.
Deanna, you're in the
You're going
class,
to
so
learn it.
you're going to learn. Yeah.
okay.
That's
Welcome.
why
I'm
you're
glad you
here.
could make it tonight.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, I'm feeling overwhelmed, but
It's
we'll get through
okay.
it.
It's
This is
okay.
Pete.
You'll
I can send you my notes, Deanna, if you want them. I have
Please,
notes.
please, Jasmine,
Okay.
that would be great.
Pete.
And Eli, you too.
we've got a cadre here of study group here.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'm also
Okay.
I'm also extremely overwhelmed. You surpassed my Mac knowledge at about I think it was 8:17.
Oh boy. So I think Pete wanted to say something.
Yeah, to you group of students. If you want to jump the gun, or if you just kind of want to do a little bit of prerequisite or not requisite, but pre-reading, go to the YouTube app on your phone or anywhere for that matter. But the iBug Today YouTube channel has a bunch of playlists. One of which is the Mac training course, which are archived recordings of the last class that Chanelle conducted, which was what, back in the spring, Chanelle?
Yes.
And
Or
they're
well,
labeled,
yeah.
yeah,
The fall.
they're labeled very nicely. And if you wanted to go in there and look at things like Doc or Safari or Mail or things like that, you can pre-listen to those and prepare yourself nicely and learn all this stuff ahead of time if you wanted to jump the gun on the class. Just a
You
little.
come to class loaded with questions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some
That would be
answers.
great.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
And this
Thank
is Herbie.
you. Yes, Herbie.
Now, the one thing that the YouTube videos will not prepare you for is I hear they have a really nice review instructor that is pretty easygoing and doesn't ask tough questions or anything.
And
like
he
that.
also gets to answer the tough questions that you have. So
That's right.
he can dish them out, but you can dish them back. So there
And
you
if
go.
I can't answer them, that's what office hours are for. So
Okay. Anyway, let's take this little family feud off to a different topic.
This is Harry.
And yeah, go ahead.
The question I have is somehow recently my Mac lost contact with my phone. How do I get them reconnected? I do not know what happened, but like I said, I get a message that says your Mac is not talking to the iCloud. How do I get reconnected?
All right. Who can help?
This is Brad. What was the question? Is Mac is getting a message that's not connected to iCloud?
Is that right?
What
It sounds like what you were saying. It's your.
That is correct.
Okay.
Go to in your system settings. You should be able to find internet accounts, or you can go to what is it called? Apple ID.
Yeah, this is Herbie.
Either way. And if you go to internet accounts, you will find your iCloud and it will prompt you to sign in, but you can also go, probably it's best to go to Apple ID, just like you would on an iPhone up at the top where it shows your name. It's laid out similar. And you can go in there and there should be a place where you can, it'll have a sign in thing. And you can VO spacebar on that, and it'll prompt you to sign in with your Apple ID and password, and then you will be connected to iCloud. And it should have, I can't remember if you said you had started off with a brand new Mac, but it's one of the things it prompts you to do in one of the first few steps of the setup process.
Well, when my daughter and I set up the Mac, I was down at her house. We set it up with my phone. They were happy talking with each other. I came back here and have since probably broken a few things as I've tried to learn the Mac. So somehow they got disconnected since I came back to Nevada from California.
All right. Well, hopefully that helps
This
you.
is Herbie.
Yeah, go ahead, Herbie.
One other thing I would also check, have you made sure it's actually connected to Wi-Fi?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, I'm getting email and things like that.
Okay. Then yeah. Okay, then it's an iCloud. Then I would go to the Apple ID under system settings.
Yeah, you should sign in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Who would like to ask our next question?
This is Anizio.
Yes, Anicio.
Okay, this is a very basic question, but I was just trying to shut down my Mac, and I know I had to go to the Apple and then go down to find shut down, and I couldn't find how to get to the Apple. I got to the Finder, I got to the dock with voice with the VOD,
This is
but
Herbie.
I couldn't get to the Apple.
Okay. Go ahead, Herbie.
So this is one of my favorites because I'm going to talk where Chanelle will teach this. I'm going to preach it. The VOM commands. And so I'm going to tell you this now because there will be a pop quiz next week. VOM is your menu bar. VOMM is your menu extras, and VO Shift M is your context menu. So you want
shortcut menu is what it's called on the
shortcuts
menu. Well,
we
call it either one. Yes.
But for the PC user, if you're migrating over, you might understand the term context menu a little bit better. But
like the Shift F10, right?
Yeah, this VO Shift M is the equivalent to Shift F10 on Windows. So, but what you want in this case is your VOM, which is the equivalent to your menu bar key on Windows. And if you arrow down, you will see restart and shutdown. And I recommend on those you do Option Enter rather than Enter, because if you just do Enter or VO space, it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to shut down or restart your computer? And odds are you probably are sure. So you can just do Option Enter instead, and it'll bypass that little dialogue and just shut it down.
Thank you.
This is Chuck. I'm sorry. And the Option key would be where?
Great question. The Option key is So your space, center yourself with your space bar, and then it is two keys to the left. So you goes space bar, then so
Or two
you're
keys to the right.
or two keys to the right. Yep.
Wait a minute.
And
Hold on. Hold on. I got you. Okay, so if I'm going from I'm starting the space bar, going to the left. What the first key is my
command key,
command key, and then it's
then
option,
option.
right?
Yep.
Okay, and
And
then
then
what are the next?
control
Control, and then I have one more key.
function.
FN key.
Okay, is the function key the far left, or is it?
Yes.
Oh, so it's
It's the
going from left
opposite
to
from the
right.
way it is on Windows.
Gotcha. So going from left to right, the first key is function, and then control, right?
Yep.
Well, no wonder I've been screwing. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't forget what we talked about earlier. That VOK. That'll
Yes.
remind you of what your keys are.
I have a very, very quick story I will tell you, and
Okay, I want to
I'm
get
sorry.
back. That's okay. I want to get so yeah, and Anicio, I would recommend actually holding down the option while you press enter. Don't press them both at the same
Yes.
time or it's not going to work. So, holding down option and pressing enter, and
Okay. Mine works just by pressing them. But okay.
well, okay. And Chuck, if your story's related to voiceover and the Mac, go ahead.
Oh, sure it is. I got this computer, and for the first time tonight, I reached up and felt the screen, and it felt really rough, and I couldn't understand what was going on. And then I realized it was the paper connected to the paper that was on the screen, because on the Windows machines I've used, the paper's been really smooth. So the things you
Okay.
learn for the first time.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
This is Brad.
Yes, Brad.
Just I was wanted to add a word on like what I call the shortcut menu, which is what Apple calls it. And actually on Windows, the correct term is applications menu. But both of them are context menus because what that means is the items on the menu change depending on the current situation or the current context. So that is why sometimes people refer to one or the other as the context menu. But the on the Mac, the Apple calls it a shortcut menu, and on Windows it's a applications menu. But again, it's very, very handy because on both operating systems, the things you will find on that menu change depending upon what you can do in the current context or the current situation. So it's kind of the same thing, but you will find Apple, the OS will call it a shortcut menu, but it's the same thing.
Yep, very good. All right. Let's see. Does anyone else have a question?
This is Dan.
Yes, Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, Brad said something significant a little while back. He's always saying significant things, but he was talking about the fact that the help button is always available, and it's everybody's friend, I guess. So I'm wondering if I get into Finder, and if I press the help button, will that bring up information that'll help me deal with Finder?
Okay.
This is Brad.
Go
I think
ahead,
we were
Brad.
talking in the Mac help session that we did on Saturday from the New York Public
Yes.
Library. I talked about how in the settings, system settings, in whatever area you're in, you will tend to find in the lower right-hand corner, which can be gotten to by VO FN right arrow, which when you hold down the FN, the right arrow becomes the end key. So it's VO end. You will find a help button. And if you VO spacebar on that, it will open up the Mac help who the area of the Mac help. And it comes in, a little window pops up from the side right hand side of the screen, and it's like HTML. You can navigate it like a web page because that's kind of what it is. And you can find help for that specific window or area of of system settings that you're looking for. You will also find it in VO utility, the same thing. It's in the lower right-hand corner. I am not familiar with the same thing in a Finder window. I don't believe that exists. You can go to the menu bar under Help, and there may be under Help, I believe there is an item there that will open up the same Help window, but I don't think it's as honed down to the exact thing that you had focused on, because it's not the same little button in the corner.
Okay, so that only applies to the system settings.
System settings and VO utility.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah, there's always inbuilt Mac help. It's just a matter of figuring out how to get there, but that's important. VOH or that help button at the end of the screen there. Who has our next question?
Oh, now I'm muted. Harry?
Yes, Eric?
Harry, actually.
Aaron, I'm sorry. You're kind of faint, so I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Well, I tried to improve, but no luck, I guess. It's Harry.
Okay.
Harry.
Oh, Harry. Oh, dear. I'm really off. I must be tired. Okay.
Not
Sorry, Harry.
Well, you are far away from your mic, though, so you might want to see about getting closer at some point. But anyway.
I'll try to get up closer. Every once in a while, I end up, when I'm wandering around, getting in a collection. What is a collection? The VO says you are in a collection of, and I don't know how I got there or how to get out of it, or what it is, for that matter.
All right. Who can tell Harry what a collection is?
This is Pete.
Yes, Pete?
I'll try.
Oh, you'll do great.
A collection is kind of what it says, Harry. It's kind of like a holding bin, but it's something that you'll need to interact with. Are you familiar with interacting?
Yeah. Whoops.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if you keep going with your normal navigation keys, which would be, for instance, your VO, right arrow, left arrows, you will not delve down into the collection that they're referring to. But it occurs, for example, and I was just in my Messages app on the Mac. You'll see a conversations collection, and that collection of conversations is exactly that. If I interact with it, then it will go down the list of my various contacts. I'll see Brad, and I'll see Chanelle, and I'll see my friends in there, my contacts. So that's the way to get into the collection and pick one of those. Another collection in my Messages app would be Messages collection. So as I interact with Brad and I select Brad's message thread, then I can read Brad's individual messages by going to the Messages collection and interacting with those. So that's kind of the concept of it, and I imagine there's collections that pop up all over the Mac.
Yeah, very good.
Great, thank you.
So this is Anicio.
Yes, Anicio.
So in terms of when you think in your example with messages, is collections the same thing as the thread that appears on the iPhone, for example?
Yeah,
or...
pretty much, right. The Messages collection is once you've interacted with a conversation, the conversations, when you interact, is the person or your group that you're communicating with. That isolates them as the ones that you want to communicate with. Then you go to the Messages collection, which would be the thread for that individual or that group.
Yep.
This is Davida.
Yes, Davida.
So collections, I'm used to being a PC user, keeping everything in documents and having things kind of alphabetized so I could always find them. Does collections, is that something that would kind of be the same concept, but for documents, or it doesn't apply?
All right. Who wants to answer that question? So you're wondering if collections is a way to help you organize documents? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay, well, basically, a collection is really kind of more of a, how would you describe it? It's more of like a type of, it's more of a term that voiceover uses to indicate something. Just like, a web page can have headings, links. It's a term of, so a collection is more of a kind of a identifying characteristic. It's not really something you would use to.
Okay.
It's what the screen. It's a screen reader term. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not something like a folder or a file that you would create and use. Yeah.
Very good. All right. Who has our next question?
I have a question. This is Deanna.
Deanna, okay.
I just updated, and now my voiceover isn't working. My password, when I enter it in, it's not doing anything. So do you?
This is Herbie.
Okay.
Go ahead, Herbie.
Yeah, what I usually find helpful in these situations is to try to reset. Have you tried resetting it with Command F5?
That's to reset voiceover. Have you?
No.
That's the first thing to try because your voiceover
I
may not
tried
even be.
caps lock because I have instead of VO, I have it on caps lock.
Command F5 though.
Command.
Command
Okay, well that's one
so
thing.
which Mac model do you have?
M1.
Okay, but is it a laptop, a Mac
It's
Mini?
a laptop, yes.
It's an
Okay,
Air.
so in your case, what you're going to want to do is the command and then the that key to the right, what's that fingerprint sensor key called?
HID sensor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You're going to
Command
press
F5 will work as long as you have F keys.
It did it.
Yes.
It did it.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. So that's usually what happens with updates. Is VoiceOver gets turned off for some reason. So that always
Also,
default to
Deanna,
that as the
if you
first thing to
forget-
try. So.
Yep.
Also, what?
You can always tell Siri as well. If you forget the command for it, you can tell Siri as well. But yeah, I'll send you my notes too. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Very good.
I know.
Who has our next question?
Well, this is Brad. I had something from a way back. Because I know we're getting close to the end here.
We are. Yep.
Mary Ellen, when she got her new Mac Studio, talked about she exported some mailboxes, a mailbox that contained some mail she had saved in a folder in the On My Mac section. And she exported it by going to the menu bar, to mailboxes, and down in that menu is export mailbox or export. So she exported the mailbox, and we were trying to figure out how to get it in, and we could not find it. There was nothing in the mailbox folder, but I found it. And when I found it, it was so obvious, I couldn't believe. In Mail, go to the menu bar and go to the File folder. And on down in there is an item that says Import Mailbox and ellipsis, and it opens a dialog box with some things that allow you to specify what it is you want to import, or just says import actually, what it is you want to import, and by default it's set to mailbox. And then there's some other items there, and then there's a continue button, so it goes to another dialogue. And I did not go beyond that because I didn't have anything to import. But I wanted to say that Mary Ellen should probably go, if hopefully you've still got those exported mailboxes on a flash drive or whatever you put them on. And hopefully that will help you get them imported into your Mac Studio. But go ahead.
Miss Mary Ellen, I have to find them, but I thank you very much for that.
I still recommend anyone who has mail you want to save, if what you're using is mail that's IMAP, that you create a folder under the IMAP account and put them in there so that if you get a new Mac and once you sign in and sign into that account on your Mac, all that stuff, all those folders will just show up. But I just couldn't believe there wasn't a way to import something into the mail app. And of course, when I found it, I was like, of course, the files menu. So hopefully you'll be able to find it, Mary Ellen.
Very
All
good.
right, so this is Herbie. I've got an interesting question.
All right.
So I need to actually look into this to myself, but before I do, does anybody know, can you use a Mac as a secondary or primary monitor for another Mac? And the reason why I would want to is because I was thinking about putting WhatsApp on my current Mac, but I don't have a monitor attached to it, and one thing it needs
this is Brad.
a QR code. Yep.
Yes, Brad.
I have heard this discussed repeatedly on Apple Insider Podcast because they have talked about wanting to use an iMac as a secondary display for either another iMac or a MacBook Pro because it would be a bigger screen.
Right.
And the answer is it is not possible.
Okay.
You can use a iPad in Sidecar as a secondary monitor to a Mac, but Sidecar does not allow you to use another Mac as a secondary display.
Why were you wanting it in WhatsApp, Herbie?
So the reason, because I was going to maybe put WhatsApp on my current Mac, because sometimes I like to use it from the computer side. But the one downside with WhatsApp is it requires a QR code. Yeah,
right.
So you kind of need a monitor for that.
Yeah, I haven't been able to set it up for that reason.
So I was thinking, well, I could just, if it let me use my other Mac as a monitor, then I could just use that as the monitor, and
Cool.
problem solved. But
This is Eli.
This is Brad. And I don't even think you can use it in the new thing they call continuity, where your mouse arrow, for those who are sighted and can do that can just drag it over, because that's a secondary display. You could do that with your iPad or something like that, but you cannot do it with another Mac.
Right. And Eli.
Yes, that is very surprising to me. I know that there are usually alternative sign-in methods, but I'm not familiar with WhatsApp on the Mac.
So on the Windows side, they now let you authenticate with a phone number, but I've yet to see that. When I looked a month ago, they had not introduced that on the Mac side.
That is unfortunate. Goodness.
It is. I can tell what I will tell you, if you do want to do something like what I found to be most effective when doing QR codes on a screen in the Mac is you can do this thing in the menu bar called it's called Give Focus. The exact terminology here, it's in the Apple menu. Oh, now what is it? Oh, you can hide others, and then that'll keep the actual app that you're in focus. So I found that does make it a little bit easier for your phone to find the QR code. So that's how I've done that on the Mac. But yeah, it would be nice if I should download the app just to see if they've now introduced the phone number authentication method, as that would be a lot easier.
I have a suggestion for you. Well, there is no technical communication between the devices, so if you are able to take a screenshot of your Mac screen with the QR code visible and then send that to yourself, you can then utilize a different device to scan the QR code.
Oh, now there's an interesting idea.
Oh, obvious. We missed it.
Yeah.
Really?
And you're a new student, right?
Yes. To the Mac, I have built computers my entire life. Don't crucify me.
No, that's
We're not
great.
crucifying you. We're gonna recruit you probably by the end of the week. The way you're going, son.
Uh-oh.
I never even thought of that.
You're
Wow,
in
that's
trouble,
brilliant.
Eli.
Oh, I'm literally so I definitely am excited about this course as an accountability for me to get on the Mac, but I have not messed with the Mac side of the operating system, and yet I am virtualizing Windows 11 ARM via parallels with a MacBook Pro, and I am enjoying that immensely.
Well, I can relate because when I first got my Mac, probably one of the first things I did with it was boot camp, and that was, back in 2013.
So then
So,
my last question, because I just don't remember, because I never have to really do this on this side. How do you take a screenshot on the Mac side?
Oh, good. Go to keyboard. Go to.
VOX or no, Option
No.
X? No.
No. It involves
With
it involves number 3 and number 4, and I cannot remember the commands. But if you go to keyboard in system settings, then there's a button for shortcuts, and it opens up the shortcuts. And one of the categories is a screenshot, and it will show you there are 4 of them. And I cannot remember what they are because it's not like what I use every day, but you will see them right there.
All right.
Oh, I know the keyboard commander put the screenshot in a mail message. That's what the keyboard
No,
commander
yeah,
does.
that's something else.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was just okay.
No, yeah, you're
Anyway,
right. It does. I
we
forgot
are
about that one.
we are out of time. So great questions, everyone, from the getting us started thinking about our Macs to some of the advanced possibilities. I love it. Come back next month. Mac and Talk will be April or no, we'll still be in March. Oh
March.
dear.
March.
March 26th, I think. So
Yes.
we will see you back then. In the meantime, check out some of our other events this week and throughout the month. Thank you.
Thanks, Chanelle.
Bye.
Harvey, Bradford.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a wonderful night. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too. Ending the room.
Nice to meet everybody.
Bye,
See you next
guys.
time.
Thanks, guys.